How is it going, ladies and gentlemen of Review and Preview? My name is Noah Deibler, and in this video, I will be unfortunately paying off my punishment for being the worst member of Review and Preview for the first month of the NFL Quick Picks competition. And in this one, I have been assigned to do a 5-minute video on why David Wright was a better player than Chipper Jones. So, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Reason number one, stats versus common opponents. Stats versus the Florida/Miami Marlins. 326 average for David Wright compared to 297 for Chipper Jones. 918 OPS, 895 for Chipper, so he has an advantage there as well. He has less home runs and RBIs, but he's also played a lot less against him. Only 230 less plate appearances, but he's pretty close to total bases with 373 compared to 437. Stats against the Los Angeles Dodgers, who I picked because they're probably the Braves' consistent biggest rival in the NL, and it's not even close. 348 average for David Wright compared to 272 for Chipper Jones, 960 slash line to 898. Doesn't have anywhere near as many home runs, but he's played a lot less against them once again because Chipper Jones played until he was like 49 years old. So yeah, and this is where it gets really shocking. Stats versus the Atlanta Braves: 277 average for Wright, 846 slash line, 36 home runs, 98 RBIs, and 774 plate appearances, 340 total bases. And this is where we really start to see that Chipper Jones was an absolute fraud third baseman because he never got a single hit going up against the Atlanta Braves. Just absolutely embarrassing. Verdict: Jones is an overrated fraud, padded stats from longevity. David Wright actually produced against the Braves, which Chipper Jones never did. More proof that Wright is better than Jones. Reason number two, Gold Gloves. David Wright won 2 Gold Gloves in his career, as you can see here. Chipper Jones, well, you'd have to put up a missing persons report to find his Gold Gloves because he won a solid 0. Final score 2-0 in favor of David Wright. Chipper Jones, bang average defender at best. David Wright took 2 Gold Gloves at the same position in the same league that Chipper Jones was playing in. Not a single Gold Glove. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then, but not Chipper overrated Jones. So if you have any information on Chipper Jones's where the Gold Gloves, where they could be, call 1-800-OVERRATED. That's 1-800-OVERRATED. Reason number three, value to their team. Now, this is where I actually went deep into some statistics, and, my reasons weren't just trolling. So, David Wright played for the Mets for 15 seasons from 2004 to 2008, compared to Chipper Jones, who played for the Braves from 93 to 2012, 20 seasons. In this time, David Wright led his team in WAR 3 times: 2007, 2012, and 2013. The only other Met to do this in this time period was Jacob deGrom, 2015, 17, 18. So for this span of 15 years where he played, Wright was the most valuable player on the Mets, only matched by deGrom, who's one of the most talented pitchers of all time. Statistically, the highest producing player on the Mets 20% of his career. When we compare this to Chipper Jones, Jones also led his team in WAR 3 times. However, this was behind Andrew Jones, who did so 4 times from 98 to 2000 2002, whereas Chipper did it in 2001, 7, and 8. Greg Maddux also did it 3 times from 94, 95, and 97. He was statistically the highest producing player on the Braves, 15% of his career, which is lower than Wright's mark. Wright was a 7 times All-Star in 15 years, which means he was an All-Star 47% of the seasons he played, whereas Jones was an 8 times All-Star in 20 years, which is a 40% rate, which is also lower. Also, after David Wright entered the league, he was a 7 times All-Star compared to Chipper only winning 3 while Wright was in the league. David Wright's career WAR of 49.2 puts him as the second highest Met of all time, behind only the legendary Tom Seaver. Chipper's career WAR of 85.3 is the 6th highest in Brave history. Wright is an undisputed top 3 player for his franchise's history. Chipper is not. Verdict: Chipper Jones was a good player on great Braves teams that had great talent around them, including multiple Hall of Fame starting pitchers, guys like Glavine, Maddux, and Schmaltz, and the superior Jones player in the outfield. David Wright, by comparison, was the clear and uncontested leader and best player on most Mets teams he played on, besides when he was old. Wright also did not have the luxury of playing under a Hall of Fame manager in Bobby Cox 90% of his career. Just had okay managers at best. And you know it's bad when your best manager is fossil Terry Collins. Swap Jones and Wright's teams. Wright still produces on good teams while Jones is a stat patter on a crap team. Also, speaking of which, how many Silver Sluggers did Chipper Jones win after David Wright entered the league, by the way? Because we tend to think of Chipper Jones as, a really good offensive player. And the answer is 0. Chipper Jones won 0 Silver Sluggers after David Wright entered the league. And it doesn't just stop there. Reason number 4, head-to-head awards and advanced stats. While they were playing the same time and in the same league, let alone the same division. So this was from when David Wright entered the league in 2004 to when Chipper Jones retired in 2012. All-Stars, 7-3 advantage for Wright. Silver Sluggers and Gold Gloves, both 2-0 advantages for Wright. Also, Wright's highest MVP award voting finish, 4th in 2007, was higher than Chipper's highest during the same time period, which was also the same year he finished 6th in 2007. Jones is Wright from 2004 to 12, 36.5 compared to 41.3 for David Wright, whereas David Wright was only making $52 million during that time period compared to $119 million for Chipper Jones. Wins probability added, basically, based on your play, how many wins did your play, would you expect your play to add to a team's record? 25.4 wins probability added from 2004 to 2012 for Chipper Jones compared to 27.4 for David Wright. Verdict: Jones had an excellent first half of his career, but during the second half, and especially when he played at the same time as Wright, David Wright was clearly the better player, more valuable, and contributed more to his team's winning while making less than half the salary of Chipper. It's also fair to say that David Wright did it on teams that were nowhere near as good, which means he's even more valuable. Once Chipper was playing on Braves teams that weren't part of the 1990s powerhouses, his production severely declined. Also, the first year Jones didn't win an award or even poll in MVP voting in the right-hand pitcher, besides his first 2 years in the league, was 2004. What year did David Wright enter the MLB? 2004. Coincidence? I think not. Wright entered the league, and Jones's rate of making all-star teams declined greatly. He never won another award again as well. After 2004, Jones never placed higher in MVP voting than David Wright. Not even once. And we see right here, I marked it, David Wright enters the league here in 2004. And then we see in 2005, he's an MVP candidate. Chipper is not. He's an all-star in 2006. He finishes higher in MVP voting than Chipper Jones. 2007, same thing, except he adds a Gold Glove and Silver Slugger. 2008, he does that exact same thing again. 2009, he's an all-star. Chipper is not. 2010, he's an all-star. MVP voting, Chipper is not. 2011 is the 1 year where Chipper is actually an all-star and David Wright is not. But the next year, David Wright is an all-star. And while both of them are all-stars, Wright was 6th in MVP voting. Chipper Jones was only 32nd. Reason number 5, character. David Wright is a charitable man with no career controversies. He founded the David Wright Foundation to raise funding and awareness of multiple sclerosis. He also founded Big League Impact, a fantasy football league that donates its winnings to charity. Jones, on the other hand, he can't even keep his bat in the dugout for long without cheating on his first wife with a Hooters waitress, having an illegitimate child, getting divorced once and then twice. David Wright is 1 for 1 on marriages, while Jones is 1 for 3. And he's trying desperately not to be 0 for 3. Simple math on this one, Wright has a better average on his marriages. He seems like a better person, not cheating on his wife, having extramarital, illegitimate children. David Wright takes the win here as well. Reason number 6, adversity. Let's be honest. Playing for the Mets in and of itself represents adversity. The franchise is a complete joke and embarrassment. The fact Wright played his entire career there for 15 years shows he was one tough son of a gun. Also, he battled through injury after injury and never gave up. Class personified. Chipper's biggest adversity during his career, trying to avoid piling up more divorce and child support payments. Not everyone can play for a Hall of Fame manager their entire career or cheat on their 12 wives, Chipper. Some people actually have class and toughness. Easy to be a good player on a franchise loaded with Hall of Famers from its history. Chipper can't even shine Hank Aaron's shoes, while Wright can hold his head high as one of the greatest Mets of all time. And lastly, this isn't a factor that I used in my voting because let's be honest, David Wright has already won the voting 6-0. But Chipper, his greatest quotes are like yakety or whatever it's called, or yammo, whammo, whatever the hell this idiot is talking about when one of his teammates hits a home run. David Wright's best quote: whether you have a great game or a terrible game, tomorrow's another day, and you've got to come out there and compete. A great quote from the great David Wright. Way better than Chumper Jones, the most overrated third baseman of all time. David Wright is a Hall of Famer. Chipper Jones somehow frauded his way in. Um, what an absolute legend. And Chipper, embarrassing. Should have stepped your game up, man. You could have been so much better. But until then, David Wright owns you. So yeah, let's go Braves. Uh, hopefully I stop throwing the NFL quick picks for the next few months. But until then, Chipper, step your game up, man. Come on. David Wright made you look like a fool in this competition.